The year is 1250 BCE, and the Mediterranean thrives in a golden age of trade and culture. From the mighty palaces of Mycenae to the sprawling cities of the Hittites and the glittering temples of Egypt, kingdoms hum with activity. Ships laden with copper and tin, essential for bronze making, crisscross the sea under the warm Mediterranean sun, their sails billowing in steady winds. Kings and merchants alike marvel at the prosperity of their interconnected world, unaware that it teeters on the edge of catastrophe. In bustling city-states like Ugarit, scribes document treaties and trade agreements on clay tablets. Farmers in the fields watch their crops sway under the gentle breeze, while soldiers in fortified cities patrol walls that have stood for generations. The air smells of olive oil and fresh bread, a world full of promise. Yet far-off tremors, both literal and metaphorical, begin to unsettle this harmonious existence. Around 1200 BCE, chaos erupts like a sudden storm. Raiders, later known as the Sea Peoples, descend upon coastal cities with brutal efficiency. Their longships glide through dark waters, their arrival heralded by the smell of salt and the sound of waves breaking against wooden hulls. The defenders, caught off guard, scramble to prepare, but fear courses through their veins as fire engulfs their cities. The Sea Peoples are a fearsome enemy, their tactics swift and merciless. Their warriors move like shadows, clad in leather and bronze, their weapons gleaming under the sun. For generals defending ancient kingdoms, it feels like fighting a ghost. The enemy appears and vanishes, leaving only smoke and ruins in their wake. In Mycenae, the once proud citadel of Greece, warriors line the walls as the invaders approach. The weather is stifling, and sweat drips down their faces as they clutch their spears, their breaths heavy with anxiety. When the city falls, the mighty palace is reduced to rubble, its treasures plundered. Survivors scatter into the hills, their cries echoing into the desolate night. Amid the chaos, famine spreads like wildfire. Crops fail due to sudden climate shifts. Droughts parch the land, while relentless storms flood fields. Starving peasants abandon their villages, trekking through barren landscapes in search of food, their hollowed eyes reflecting despair. In the heart of Anatolia, the Hittite Empire crumbles under the combined weight of external attacks and internal strife. Generals quarrel over resources as their armies dwindle, weakened by disease and hunger. The grand capital of Hattusa, with its golden gates, is abandoned, its streets eerily silent as weeds creep through cracks in the stone. To the south, Pharaoh Ramesses III rallies Egypt's armies against the Sea Peoples. The Nile floods unpredictably, its waters both a blessing and a curse, complicating military logistics. Egyptian troops march through blistering heat, their sandals worn thin, driven by duty and desperation. At the Battle of the Delta, they achieve a hard-fought victory, but the strain on the kingdom leaves it vulnerable to future threats. Across the Mediterranean, once thriving cities are reduced to ash. In places like Ugarit, tablets left behind capture the panic of the time, messages pleading for help from allies who never arrive. The stench of smoke and charred wood lingers in the air as refugees scatter, carrying stories of destruction to distant lands. With cities in ruins, the intricate trade networks that sustained Bronze Age civilizations collapse. Ships stop arriving, and artisans can no longer acquire the tin needed to make bronze. For soldiers on distant frontiers, this means blunt weapons and broken armor, a devastating disadvantage in the chaos. Literacy, once a hallmark of these great civilizations, begins to fade. Scribes flee their posts, their clay tablets and ink pots abandoned. Over time, languages like Linear B and cuneiform vanish, their secrets buried in the ruins of palaces and temples. Mass migrations sweep across the region as people flee famine, war, and destruction. Entire villages move en masse, their carts creaking under the weight of their belongings. On the roads, stories of horror are exchanged, of lands lost to fire and kin taken by invaders. In the aftermath, survivors cling to life in isolated settlements. Without trade, resources are scarce, and the art of bronze making is forgotten in many areas. The survivors live simpler lives, rebuilding slowly, their memories of past glory fading into legend. Centuries later, scholars piece together the causes of the collapse. Was it the invasions of the Sea Peoples alone, or did natural disasters, climate change, and internal revolts also play a role? The truth, like the ruins themselves, is fragmented, leaving behind more questions than answers. Recent studies suggest a sudden cooling period may have contributed to crop failures. Drought gripped parts of the region, turning fertile lands into arid wastes. The winds, once steady and reliable for trade, became erratic, leaving ships stranded and kingdoms starving. Earthquakes, too, ravaged the region, toppling walls that had stood for centuries. In cities like Knossos and Troy, the ground shook violently, reducing monuments to rubble. Survivors of these quakes recount their terror, describing the earth as alive, writhing beneath their feet. By 1100 BCE, the interconnected Bronze Age world has vanished. Mighty empires are reduced to scattered tribes, and the light of civilization flickers in the shadows. It is a dark age where survival eclipses progress, and the memory of the past becomes a distant echo. The Bronze Age collapse serves as a warning for future generations. It shows how fragile even the mightiest civilizations can be when faced with a perfect storm of calamities. The ruins whisper lessons of resilience, adaptation, and the dangers of over-reliance on fragile systems. Amid the darkness, small sparks of hope emerge. Iron begins to replace bronze, and new societies rise from the ashes of the old. From these humble beginnings, the foundations of the classical world, Greece, Rome, and beyond, will eventually emerge. The Bronze Age collapse remains one of history's greatest mysteries, a tale of ambition and fragility. Its ruins remind us of the heights humanity can reach and the depths to which it can fall. As long as we learn from the past, the legacy of this lost age endures. Our journey through time comes to an end for today. We embark on new adventures every week. If you relish the experience, please like and subscribe.